Thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to learn how to write linear equations given 2 points or a table. And really it's just a piggyback on what we've already been learning. There shouldn't be anything new. So to start with, we need to remind ourselves what's the slope-intercept form and what is the point-slope form. If you're in the classroom, look on the back wall above the calculators and you'll notice that I've put some posters there for us to help us remind us. So if you'll take a minute, go ahead and write those in, the slope-intercept form and the point-slope form. If you're not quite done, just give yourselves a minute, go ahead and push pause and write those two forms. Once you've done that, let's move on to example number 1. So what we need to do is we need to write an equation in point-slope form that passes through -6, -7, and 1, -2. So what we need to do is first we need to use the information that we have to determine the slope. And we've been doing this all year long. This shouldn't be anything new. You absolutely can do it by hand and use the formula, or you can use your calculator and you can use the stat function on your calculator, whichever one you're comfortable with. Right now I want you to make sure that you've got this work copied down, so if you need to pause it, go ahead and do so. After you determine the slope, you need to select a point. And it doesn't matter which point. It can be either of the two that you've been given. I personally liked the numbers 1 and -2 better. They were just small, and if I had to do any multiplication, those would be the ones I choose. So I'm going to pick this point, which is just one of them that I was given, and then I'm going to complete the equation. Well, we want point-slope form. This is my point-slope equation. I plugged in my points. My y was -2, so I have a +2 in the equation, and my x was a +1, so that makes it a -1 in the equation, and of course my slope transferred just like it was. So if I'm going faster than you are, pause it now and make sure that your notes look like my notes. Okay, moving on to number 2. We're going to write an equation in slope-intercept form that passes through 2 points. So once again, the first thing we do when we're given 2 points is we find the slope. You can do it by hand like I did, or it's always fair game to use your stat function. Remember, if you use stat, it can give you a decimal that we have a hard time putting back into a fraction, but it's up to you. So I went ahead and I determined the slope and I got 5/4. So now I have the m part of my equation. The next thing I need to do is to determine the y-intercept. And this is a little bit new, but all the pieces we've done. It's just putting the puzzle together a different way. For example, our equation is y equals mx plus b. Well, we can pick any point we want, and we have a y in that point. We just found out what slope was. We said slope was 5/4. And if we've got a y, we can use the x from the exact same point. And we're going to substitute, which is a word that you should be familiar with. It's something we've done all year long. So I end up with, for my y, number 4. For my slope, 5/4. And for my x, it's -4. And if I put all of that together, it's 4 equals 5/4 times -4 plus b. Well, now all I have to do is a little bit of arithmetic and algebra. 5/4 times -4 gives me a -5. So I have 4 equals -5 plus b. I add 5 to both sides. So the 5 on the right-hand side goes away, and I am left with 4 plus 5 equals 9. Over on the right, all I'm left with is b, so b equals 9. If that totally blew your mind, just stop it, rewind it, and listen to it again. Right now, I want you to pause it and make sure that your notes look like my notes. Okay, next we just need to complete the equation. We're dealing with the slope-intercept form, so I need the slope, which we found earlier, and I need the y-intercept, which we just found. So we just plug those in. Y equals 5/4 x plus 9. This is always fair game to use STAT. STAT gives you the slope-intercept form of equation. This is how you do it without using technology, but if you know how to use technology, that's fair game. Okay? You have learned today everything, all the skills, or you've been introduced to all the skills that you need. So whether you've learned it or not is up to you. I want you to do the last equation on your own, and I want you to check with a solution station that we have at either pink table. So what you're going to do is you're going to write an equation in both forms using the table to the right. The first one is point slope form. So look up on the wall and make sure you know which one is point slope form. And if you'll follow the instructions here, you need a slope, you need a point, and then you need to complete the equation. You can use any two numbers on here, any 2 points on here that you like to determine the slope. And then you can use any point in the table that you want to complete the equation. And then you simply fill in the equation like we've been doing. The last part of that is using the exact same information and finding the slope-intercept form. You've already determined the slope, so you should be able to write that right here. The next thing I want you to do is to determine the y-intercept, and you can go back to example number 2 and you can do it by substitution and solve by hand, or you can put that table in your calculator in the stat function and use stat calc 4 to find the y-intercept. Whichever one you choose is up to you. And now I want you to write the slope-intercept form of the equation, and I want you to check your work with the solution station. Once you've completed example number 3 and you know that you've got it right, you can move on and complete the assignment for the set of notes. Thank you guys very much. Have a great day.